Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Watchdives and San Martin collaboration, the SN0121. So I got a little bit of a reviewer's discount on this one, but I'll be reviewing it like the $240 watch that it is. Even though I got a discount, it's not going to sway my review one way or the other. And if by the end of this review you find yourself wanting to pick one of these up, I'll be leaving an affiliate link down in the description. That is to watchdives.com. You guys don't pay any extra, but this channel will earn a little bit of commission, and I'll be able to pay this watch back a little bit quicker. So yeah, thank you guys so much for using my links. I really do appreciate it. So the current retail price for this watch is $238 US. That's before any taxes or sales or coupons. You can actually use the code ESCAPE10 to get $10 off the purchase of this, so that's nice to see. And they do go on sale from time to time, so just keep that in mind. And also, I did want to mention the price does include free FedEx delivery, so you'll get this thing in about 5 to 7 days or so. So yeah, really happy that you get the free FedEx delivery, and that also includes like a 3-year warranty, I believe. So pretty happy with the entire package from Watchdives. So this watch is available in 2 different colorways that you can see here, and then each of those colorways has a date and a no date option. So it's nice that they're giving us the option of a date or a no date. I think it's the perfect solution. Obviously, it's going to cost them a little bit more, but in the end, I think it's going to be worth it for them. Giving the customer the option of a date or no date is a great option. So this all may be very confusing to people who are kind of in the know when it comes to these watches. There's been 3 very similar watches released in the past week or 2. This one is steel. The other 2 are titanium. So the watch case, bracelet, clasp is all 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal, a screw down crown, a screw down case back, 200 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch is powered by the Seiko NH35 automatic movement. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a Watchdives and San Martin collaboration. So San Martin will make a watch to your specifications if you order a large enough quantity, and that's what's happening here. You'll see these pop up on AliExpress eventually, but those are third-party sellers or drop shippers, so skip all of that. Just go with Watchdives. They're great. They offer a 3-year warranty, fast shipping, and I mean, these are made to the same standards as a normal San Martin watch. Really, the only thing that changes is the packaging and the warranty. So warranty is handled through Watchdives, and then you get this kind of old style packaging instead of the newer, little leather pouch. But that's pretty much the only thing that's going to change. So with all of that said, I say we get right into this full review. But before we do, doing a wrist check today, wearing a Miltado. This is a new one from Watchdives. I'll be leaving the link for this down below as well. This is pretty much a sterile dial Baltony. I don't see any differences between this and the other Baltony that I reviewed right here. Yeah, so if you are interested in that, you like sterile dials, save yourself a little bit of cash and go with this one. Review for this will be coming up on the channel though. All right, so let's get to the dimensions. We got a diameter of 39.1 millimeters, and that's at the bezel. The case is a little bit smaller. A thickness of 12.8 millimeters, 20 millimeter lug width. Lug tip to lug tip is 47.2 millimeters, and sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with 1 link removed. It weighs 148 grams. So I am loving the size on this thing. That 39 millimeter dive watch, that's kind of my sweet spot for a dive watch. I just like the way that it wears. It is a pretty typical for this style of watch. It is a very flat case. There's hardly any turn down to the lugs there, but it's very comfortable. I think the way the bracelet drapes down, it's going to fit a lot of wrist sizes. And yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I've got no real complaints with the way this thing wears. So I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. Here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, it wears great. I've got no issues with the way this thing wears. You can see, very flat case, but it does wear comfortably. I like the chamfers, the polished chamfers that kind of add a little bit of a sparkle to the case, where otherwise it would be very matte looking. But yeah, it looks really good. I love the matte bezel. You can see the dial there underneath the crystal. I like it a lot. I like the way it wears. I think the bracelet is very balanced, and that clasp just makes it super comfortable. So very happy with the way this thing wears, and very happy with the way this thing looks. And popping out into some direct sunlight there, you can see the color a little bit different. There's a little bit of a mismatch there, which is kind of to be expected, but yeah, I do think it still looks really good, and you can kind of see that chapter ring a little bit better and those sunken indices. I think it all looks really good, and you can definitely tell there's a kind of like a sparkle or something to the dial. But yeah, really nicely done. And even in direct sunlight here, you can see it doesn't really get washed out. Plenty of AR coating doing its job. And I think it all looks really nice. Very happy with it. But I'm going to go throw it on some straps and we'll get back to this review. Hey, here we are on a Vario vintage leather strap, one of my favorite straps. And yeah, I do think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little too dressy for this kind of tool-y dive watch, but yeah, still looks all right. You got a couple other leathers I can throw it on though. And here we are on a dark blue vintage style leather strap. Got some nice texture to it. I think it actually looks pretty good. It matches the color pretty decently. And yeah, I do think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think of that one? And here we are on my gray suede strap. This one is lifted off one of my old Merkers. But you can buy this strap online. It's a very comfortable strap, and it looks great on this watch, in my opinion. I think gray straps are where it's at for a blue dial. So yeah, you can go throw it on a rubber strap now. And here we are on a silicone rubber strap. Yeah, this is from Barton, and it's just one of their simple, cheap straps, and I think it looks really good. That orange and the blue really pops. Very summery feel to it. Yeah, this thing looks great. And here we are on a Perlon strap in gray, and I think that looks really good. There's one layer underneath the watch there, so you can kind of see how it would wear. Yeah, really nicely done. I like the way that this looks. I like the way it wears. It's very comfortable. Nice summery combination here. I will mention the gap between the lug bars and the case is pretty thin, so I had a little bit of a tough time getting this one on, so just something to be aware of. And also, if you're using a thicker strap, you might have it bumping into the case. That Vario was actually rubbing on the case a little bit, so yeah, just something to take note of. But yeah, I do like that. That looks really good. And lastly, here we are on a gray nylon strap with 2 layers underneath it there. I told you guys gray was the color for this watch, and I stand by that. I think it looks really, really good. And yeah, this 2 layers underneath it sits up a little bit, but still very comfortable. I think it looks excellent. Looks really, really good. And yeah, I'm going to be wearing this one a lot, I think. All right, let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. All right, so let's get up close. We'll talk about the case finishing on this thing. And case finishing is done very well from St. Martin, as you would expect. It's a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces, and I think it's all done very nicely. So you have a vertical brushing on the tops of the lugs here, which is nice to see. It integrates very nicely with the vertical brushing on the bracelet. You know, the model that this is trying to look like, it has a circular brushing on the top of the lugs, and I just don't like the way that interacts with the vertical brushing on the bracelet. So I'm pretty happy with their decision to go with the vertical brushing. I think it looks really good, and getting up very close, you can see it's nice and consistent and smooth, and it has a nice luster to it. It looks really good. Flipping it over to the case side here, you can see a horizontal brushing. Again, really nicely done, and overall, I am very pleased with it. You have a nice polished chamfer there. Getting up real close, you can see, I mean, just nice and crisp transitions between the brushed and polished surfaces. That's just kind of what you come to expect from St. Martin. They do a very nice job with that, and I think it looks really good. Flipping it over to the crown side here, you have a nice signed crown there with your coin edge grip. Everything is done really nicely there. That polished chamfer runs up and then kind of blends into those really pointy crown guards. I think it's a very cool look. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I preferred this model over the other ones. I think just a little bit of that polished surface there just looks really good on this case. You know, the other ones are very matte and very brushed, and yeah, I think they look fine. I just like a little bit of sparkle on my watches, I guess. So, but yeah, otherwise, very happy again with the case finishing here. Nice horizontal brushing, and I think it all looks really nicely done. Very happy with that. Flipping it over to the case back here, you have a screw down case back, sterile. Just your typical, I don't like these. I never have, I never will. I do have the tools now to get these off, but yeah, I would just prefer simple notches. I see no reason to go with this. It can't be any cheaper to manufacture this style of case back than it is to just put 5 different notches in there. That's just me. You have circular brushing on the bottom of the lugs, and everything is done pretty nicely here. This bottom edge, typical per San Martin, it's a little bit sharp, but it never really, it hasn't bothered me in the day and a half that I've been wearing it. So yeah, I don't really think it's that big of an issue. Maybe they've kind of honed it down just a little bit, but it's still a little bit too sharp in my opinion. I wish they would just put a little tiny chamfer on that, and then we'd all be happy with it. Other than that though, the case finishing on this is excellent, as you would expect, and very, very happy with the watch in general. All right, so let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So the bezel is done very nicely. As you can see here, it's a stainless steel bezel. It's got a really nice coin edge there. Getting up real close, you can see, I mean, it's nicely done. Really nice and crisp. Lots of grip on it. I think the resistance is just about right. Yeah, it's great. It's a 120 click unidirectional bezel, so I'll let you listen to the clicks here. And yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a nice kind of snappy sound to it. Very loud and audible clicks. Yeah, it's great. There's no play in the bezel, no bounce, no wobble, no nothing. It's very solid bezel. It feels great. It sounds great. It's one of those bezels that you just kind of want to play with. So it's got a really snappy action. It's nice and even resistance all the way around. I've got zero complaints with the bezel action. Bezel alignment, boom, spot on, just perfectly aligned. So very happy with that. The bezel insert is a ceramic insert, and it is a matte finish. So I think it just looks awesome. It looks really, really cool. And you can see just very shallow engravings for all the numerals there. These are all loomed, so everything that's white on the bezel here is loomed. And it's just done really, really nice. I see no issues with that, nice and crisp. It's a great bezel. I've got zero complaints with it. Let's talk about the crystal on this thing. We'll test it real quick. So it is a sapphire crystal, and it's a double domed sapphire crystal. And as you can see, when you get really close to the edge there, you can see there's some distortion. So what that tells me is that it is not domed the same amount on the top and the bottom. And that's why you get that little tiny bit of distortion there. If you had a flat bottom and a curved top, you get a lot more distortion. So this is a double dome. It's just not a perfectly, I guess, symmetrical double dome. So you can see here, there is some blue anti-reflective coating. It's pretty minimal as far as the blue goes, at least on this model. I don't notice it, obviously. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the crystal on this thing. I kind of wish they would have just gone with a plain flat crystal. The double dome, it doesn't really bring anything to the table in my opinion. That's just me though. I know some people prefer that, but I mean, it's just a very slight dome. So it's not really necessary in my opinion, but maybe it was to clear the hands. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I would prefer a flat crystal over a double dome any day. It's just harder to photograph, and you do get a little bit more like reflections from random spots around a room or outside. So yeah, that's really my only complaint. Other than that, it's a nice crystal. I haven't had any problems with legibility, and I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so let's get real nice and tight on this dial. And it's a really nicely done dial. The dials are matte finish, so there's no gloss, there's no real texture to it. If you get really close, you can kind of see some texture, but you don't notice it in person really. And then you do have an option for a date and a no date. So that's nice to see. I went for the no date. I just like that symmetry. I think it looks pretty good. The minute track on this thing is very interesting. You can see you've got those kind of cutouts for the indices. Really nicely done though. Yeah, I'm overall pretty happy with that. You got a white printed minute track around the outside. You've got your white printed San Martin hex logo. That thing is aligned nicely. I know there was some talk about that being misaligned, but mine is pretty much spot on. And then you've got your automatic 300 meters. I said 200 meters earlier, but it is 300 meters according to the spec sheet. But yeah, it's a really nice dial. Very happy with it. It's really interesting. I like those kind of inset indices. The handset that they chose on it, it is a white border with the blue or black around the pinion area. Again, I think it's done really nicely. The size, the length of them, they're just perfectly proportional in my opinion. You've got your snowflake second hand sweeping around the dial there, reaching right out to the minute track. There's not anything that I can complain about. Everything is bordered in white, so the contrast between the blue and the white just looks really, really good. And, you know, getting up real close, you can see it's just really cleanly applied, and everything is done very nicely. Speaking of very nice, let's talk about the lume on this thing. I'm going to pop up a lume shot here, and you can see it against the Willard on the left, and then the Tactical Frog FX Diver on the right. And it holds its own. It's a very nice, even application of BGW9, so it has that nice ice blue glow to it. Yeah, it lasts all night long. It's a nice, even application. The outer bezel does fade before the dial does, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, the dial itself, it holds on strong, and I've got no complaints with it. It's a really good lume. All right, so let's talk about the movement in this thing. So the movement is the Seiko NH35 automatic movement. We all know it. We all love it. Here's how this one is running. -6 seconds a day with a nice strong beater. Yeah, I'm happy with the accuracy on this thing. I can't really complain about that. The movement, if you're unaware, it is accurate. It's reliable. You know, this style of movement has been around for a very long time. The rotor winds in both directions. It's about 40 hours of power reserve. It hacks and it hand winds. It does everything you need it to do. It's cheap to replace. Yeah, it's a great movement. I've got zero complaints with it. The movement is operated by this 3 o'clock screw down crown here. Really nice and grippy crown. Good size too. Nicely guarded as well. I am very happy with the crown on this thing. You get a decent little pop out from the NH35. This first position is your hand winding. Nice and smooth. Second position is your ghost date. And I can hear it clicking around back there, so they didn't remove the date mechanism. Not a big deal in my opinion, especially since they offer this with the date. Yeah, I know why they did it, but obviously I would prefer an NH38. But yeah, cost savings, I'm perfectly fine with a ghost date position. That's just me though. Pulling it out to the third position, and that hacks your movement. And this is where you set your time. Everything functions as it should. There's no jumping of the seconds hand or anything like that. And it works exactly like I expect it to. Nice and smooth winding or screwing in and out of that crown as well. I've got no complaints. Very happy with the movement in this thing. Yeah, it's a good one. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet. So the bracelet is kind of their typical 3-link bracelet. It is 20 millimeters. It tapers down to 16 millimeters at the clasp. It's brushed on the top here, really nicely done. Very happy with the brushing. Polished on the sides. You have screw pins for adjusting. You have female pivot solid end links here. The end link fitment is super tight. I actually had trouble getting this bracelet off. It's so tight. So yeah, really, really tight fitment on that bracelet or on those end links. And you can see that it follows the case curvature just perfectly. And I mean, there's no gaps there at all. There's no wiggle. There's no wobble in those end links. They are super solid. And it just looks great. So yeah, very happy with that. The bracelet itself, you know, the tolerances are nice and tight. It's comfortable. This bottom edge has been rounded off nicely. It's nice and fluid. There's nothing hanging up on each other. It doesn't squeak or rattle really. It's a really nice bracelet. And then the clasp that they threw on this watch is excellent. So this is St. Martin's new on the fly clasp. So it has their St. Martin hex logo here. Really nice brushed top surface and brushed on the sides here. Polished chamfer there, so it flows nicely with the bracelet and the case. I think it all looks really good. These button pushers here function perfectly. Milled inners, really nice level of finishing on the inside. Nice tight tolerances as well. There's like no rattle on these things. Opening and closing this clasp, it works great. This bottom edge is nice and comfortable. And then obviously the star of the show is the on the fly clasp. So it's already out all the way. So to extend it, you got to press this button and then you can pull, but to collapse it, you don't need to push the button at all. So what I've been doing is I've extended it and then I'll put it on wrist and then I'll kind of tighten it down on wrist. And you know, you get the perfect level of comfort and fit on this thing. It just lends to a very nice overall feel. I think the clasp, it's a good size for this. It might be just a little bit long, but it doesn't feel unbalanced at all. So I am very happy with the clasp. I'm very happy with the bracelet. It's a really good setup. So there you go, guys. That is the St. Martin Watchdives collaboration, the SN0121. Don't get this confused with their other model. I can't remember the model number of it. but that one's a little bit different, a little bit more shiny. So this is the SN0121, and it's only available at Watchdives for the moment. It's great. It's kind of a mid-sized diver. I like the matte. I like the polished on some of the aspects of the case. It's got a good bracelet. It's got the on-the-fly clasp. Yeah, there's not too much to complain about with this watch. It's been great for me. I really like it. I think you guys will like it too. If you guys are interested, I'll be leaving the link to it down in the video description. Go check it out, guys, and also snag that coupon code for 10 bucks off. I think you're going to really, really enjoy this watch. I know I definitely am, and it's great. I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.